Hey, so it's been a while. It's been a really busy month. I've been sick a lot lately, and my wife's Kickstarter just launched, Lockout Mansion on Kickstarter. Anyway, game dev. so London Game Festival happened, and that was a busy month. I went to a lot of events like LDC, which I spoke about. Now Play This, which I didn't. What else did I go to? Uh, a bunch of small side events and stuff. WASD. WASD is where I got sick. yeah, this is the first walk I'm going on to since I got sick. So something I haven't talked about. I've been using Godot for a while now. Been using Godot for just over a year, maybe a year and a half. I first saw it at a GDC talk that was given about the future of Godot and Godot 4.0. And yeah, I really liked where Godot was going. And I was like, let me go with that. And I started playing with ideas and stuff. However, I didn't really get serious about it because, I spent 15 years in the games industry, and then I went during COVID. I was like, hey, let me try something different, and I joined Adobe. I miss games basically, and I was like, okay, let's try and make this work. And so I got more serious, started talking to work about dropping down to a 4-day week, and decided to finally do the indie thing. And for the last 5 months, I've been working quite hard on a concept that I still think is very good. Fundamentally, though, the whole time I was fighting Godot because Godot is a great engine, but there's some things it just doesn't have yet. And those are the things I've been fighting against. So there's a lot of mesh processing, a lot of use of preferably mesh shaders would be ideal. But then just certain graphics pipeline stuff. And I'll be honest, I've spent more of the last 6 months working on the Godot engine than I have my game. And because it's VR and because real-time frame rates are really important, really pushing. And the conclusion I've come to is it's not the right game for now. I've been struggling with it for a while, and the TLDR is I can build it. Godot can do it. I need to modify a chunk of the renderer, but I don't have the pleasure of just doing that. I have to do all the other things required to make a video game. So it's not the right game. That in combination with helping my wife with Kickstarter and other life commitments, and the fact I'm still got my job at Adobe, meant not right now for that game. But I had to have a serious think about that, and I used this month of catching up with friends and, having some time, because, this month was a lot of networking and less dev time to think about it, go through our ideas list, talk to my wife, and come up with a new plan. So for now, that game's going to be shelved. I fully intend to come back to it because as standalone VR hardware gets more powerful, and frankly, as Godot's 3D engine pipeline gets more mature, just since I started working with Godot, the OpenXR slowdown hitch has been improved. Work's been done on the input stuff. I'm a lot more familiar with the engine, but then also there's been things like the Vulcan pipeline rework stuff to make that require less syncing. That was that was a big change. That was a very big change. And then on top of that, there's been changes like the reverse Z buffer one, which I haven't pulled yet because I need to check on shaders and stuff. So Godot is getting there, and I think by the time I finish and ship this project, I think some key Vulcan work that I was going to do probably will get done in the engine. Things like better support for compute shaders, hopefully moving away from the multiple render device, because the truth is the multiple Vulcan render device, while in spec, is not well supported. And then, you know, some more, like, let's not even get talking about the whole AMD versus NVIDIA render pipe binding stuff and whether or not you can leave a compute job running for a long time. And it's messy. I miss working on PS5 and I miss working directly on console hardware. That's been most of my game dev career, where, I mean, even there we didn't get as much information we wanted, but we definitely got more tooling and more stability. But yeah, I think particularly mesh shaders and some other pipeline stuff will probably have been, if not implemented, at least sort of more thought out by the time I come back to that project. And I think that project just benefits from more powerful hardware. So that leaves a question. Oh, you're canning like 5-6 months of work? Yes, but not really, because there's a lot of learnings in there. There's a lot of VR specific code that I can yoink into my own project. I'm a lot more familiar with the engine. Good stuff. The next project is less technically demanding. There's still a few interesting bits of tech in that I'll talk as I get them through. From an intellectual property standpoint, it's also more interesting because my wife's coming on as a writer, and we're working off her first trilogy of books, the Magical Realism series. And yeah, you know, it's some good stuff there. The concept works well in VR. I have some old game ideas from old prototypes and old things and stuff and scribblings that I want to pull in. Again, some interesting technical challenges for VR. There is a little bit of mesh processing stuff, but like, I'm not going to do correct mesh processing on this. I'm not going to do the naive approach, if you will. It was funny, I met a developer at WASD, there were a bunch of students, bless them, working on a VR title. And right out the gate, their game, I was like, well, you really should look at standalone because of how the market is. And they're like, oh, this title only works on PC VR. And I'm like, what makes it only work on PC VR? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love PC VR, but I was curious. And he was like, well, my mesh slicing. And I was like, wait, what do you do for your mesh slicing? And this person had grabbed a plugin or an add-on for Unreal, I believe it was, they were using to slice meshes. And that code has to be very general. And the honest truth is that code is not appropriate for VR. Just isn't, even on PC VR, rarely. And is it a core gameplay mechanic? Kinda, but not really. It's part of their combat fighting. And yeah, they just haven't learned the lesson of smoke and mirrors yet. So I tried to help, but hopefully they learn that lesson. Smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. So I think there's some smoke and mirrors I can do that makes the idea work. Overall, the idea is a lot more scopable. Do I think we'll hit our initial early access date? Probably not. I'm gonna still try, but I don't think so. It was an arbitrary date picked off sort of life stuff, you know. I'm turning 40 and I was like, it'd be nice to get early access launch, like launch in inverted commas, of my first indie game before I'm 40. And it's like, yeah, do I still think that'll happen? Probably not. I'm going to still try and make that happen? Yes. But we'll see. We'll see. At the moment, I have Thursdays, weekends, and evenings. So as soon as I get home, I will get back on it. But as I say, I've been sick all week, and this walk is the first time I've been able to do any exercise this week. I've been coughing, something dreadful, just a chest infection, nasty. But anyway, getting back on it, progress is immediately faster on this idea because it's more chunkable, whereas the last idea was fundamentally built around a core beast of R&D tech that I was like, this is my moat. It's a thing I can do that not many people can do, and not many people will take the risk on doing. And that's true. But I think it was also fear motivated in that I'm so afraid of my first game failing, and chances are it will, that I had to have this insurmountable moat that I could defend. And reality was, it's not that insurmountable. Could people have done it the way I was doing it? A handful, yes. Could people have done it in other ways similar that are a bit more smoke and mirrors? Yes. Still think it's a cool idea. Still think I'll return to it. But yeah, new idea I'll be talking about more. Oh, if you've listened this far, then my wife's Kickstarter, because that's been a lot of energy. Lockhart Mansion returns. That's live. So maybe go give that a look. Because yeah, she's going to be the writer on the new game. We've been looking at funding grants and other sources of income for that, so that she can draw a salary, because the way the tax system works in the UK is very good, but how do I say this? It's working as intended. So while I am a relatively high earner at the moment, because of a single earner household, I'm getting taxed out of the wazoo. And if we were both earning a third of my current salary, the take-home pay would be slightly better because of how tax works. The whole taxing income versus wealth discussion, but another time. But yeah, taxing's working as intended there, so it's interesting. I'll try to do more updates. I'm terrible at marketing. I'm terrible at this stuff. So I sort of thought about it a lot, and I was like, well, how can I market and how can I keep people engaged? And the best thing I think I can do is just be honest about my developer journey. Give these kinds of updates. Maybe some people will be interested. I'll try some other snazzier updates and stuff. But just be a bit more authentic and express my struggles, and hopefully some of you will come along for the ride, and maybe some of you will like the thing that we get to at the end. So yeah, that's just part of the journey. And I hope to share it with you. I know I'm rambling, but I decided I'd do this. I would chat while I went through the cemetery and give you this little update. And I figured that's the sort of good self-imposed limit, but also sort of a stretch goal. And it gives me time to sort of think out my thoughts. Yeah, because I think what we're doing is commercially viable. I think, we're not going for big numbers, and the VR market's in a good place. And I've been working in VR for 10 years now, it's about time. And I've wanted to do an indie game for so long, like when the first studio I worked at was showing sort of signs of fraying at the edges. I really tried to grab one of my mates, and I was like, hey, we can do this. Here's our business plan. Here's the thing. Here's the strategy. And the short version was that his then girlfriend, now wife, had an opportunity elsewhere, and timing just didn't work out for us. And I kept on looking for opportunities to go indie, and it just never worked out. And so now I'm doing this thing where I'm doing my first indie game while I have a full-time non-games job, because there's no contractual sort of clashes. And I'm allowed to work on commercial video games. I've cleared all of that. And work isn't creatively as much of a drain. It's still a big energy drain. I'll say my main limitation isn't time, it's energy. In the sense of, it's important to take walks and wash the dishes and do those sort of brain dead time consumption tasks, because I have time, but having the energy is a different factor. And that's the other reason I'm really excited to get the game to a certain level of development, because then I'll have sort of easy game tasks to do, bits of like modeling or bits of like UV unwrapping or small bits of menu work or whatever that I can do when I'm low energy and have time. But yeah, it's all going to be a balance. It's all going to work out. But we're coming at the end of our little walk here, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you're along for this ride. As I say, it's all starting up. This is day one again. Well, not really day one, because I've put some work in and stuff already, but it's the beginning again. It's always a journey, isn't it? But this is what I like about game dev, is the seasonal nature of life. And with that, I'm going to say toodaloo for now.